Yeah.
I think so. They should have.
No, I've been meaning to, wanting to go down there, just go down for lunch, and now I really have.
So,
I know, it was great. I just really,
oh, they got you.
yeah, and I,
Different login.
It's all weird.
That's a.
I know
I typed it all in wrong the first time. I'm like, what?
that it's okay. That's okay. Yeah. Tell me your name again. Phyllis. Nice to meet you. Yeah. Well, thank you. I'll see you around.
Yeah. Yeah, when she wasn't here, I was like,
Also, where is he?
Kind of bad, huh? No, that's great. We've worked together way too long.
I didn't know it until you're like, are you guys okay? Yeah, I mean, we just had a conversation.
Just had a conversation.
It's okay.
Got it all resolved.
What's my login code on the computer?
No, in the middle. We are. We are. We're all in the middle of it.
I typed Bayfield and it went blank on me and then it went. Okay.
what's up, David? You just couldn't?
Thank you.
How are you? Good. How are you? All right.
I'm going to ask you about this other one. I don't think I have to. The county road 516. It's a 516. So that's my plat that I did 5 years ago or something. I mean, I don't even know the date on it. Quite frankly, I could be wrong on the date. But I shouldn't have. This has nothing to do with that plat. Well, I have. Yeah. But that was before they even owned it.
I don't know. I mean, if I see something, we'll get to it.
Okay.
I'll give you an
Okay. Yeah,
an eyebrow.
I was just gonna ask that question. I mean, I didn't perceive it being common, but I thought I should. Yeah.
Like last minute.
No, I'm glad with the
Everybody's trying to find parking.
Trying to find who?
Parking.
Oh.
Because soccer's going on.
Oh,
So.
okay.
I figured it out. I got it. All right, bye. So up in the side it said admin, and on the left-hand corner there was a admin and Tom off. So you want to go to Tom off, and it's going to update it.
Thank you.
Hi. I'm well. How are you doing?
I get you to sign
Yep.
that, and then I'll sign it and put it in the record. You want a copy or just-
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
And are you utilizing the calendar?
I will soon.
Where'd my sign? Do I need one? Don't leave me.
Hi. They're trying to find parking.
Oh, yeah, I was having that problem. So I parked with Marshall's.
Oh, yeah. Park in the,
Do not park zone.
In the charging
and I figured
zone?
I could, no, I didn't park in the charging zone. I figured I could say, well, it's Ray's car,
I know.
too. Did I make it?
yeah.
I was like, oh, man, this light. It's taking forever.
Well, and then there's no parking because there's soccer.
Yeah, and I had to go swap my husband's car and drop off baby and come over here. House.
Yeah.
Today, like, from leaving work to getting over here, or the time. I haven't heard anything from her. They normally have like,
You get to decompress a little bit.
no, I have 20 minutes.
Oh,
And grab my coffee or
and
maybe drink a drink of water, or grab a, like a real drink out of soda pop. And I don't know, I didn't even, like, I'm all of a sudden, I'm like, oh no, I gotta go right now.
Lori is coming. Eli had surgery. Yeah, he had a hernia.
Oh.
And he's like, I'm a little out of it on drugs. And I was like, yeah. Lori's parking. Give her a second.
Can I do a not now?
Oh, yeah.
No, I got hot all of a sudden too.
Might relax.
Yeah. I didn't do that. I figure.
That's all we need was Parks and Rec.
And it's, is that right? What is your name?
Alexis.
Alexis. For some reason, I don't know why the name was not sticking in my head. Now, if you want to talk numbers, I can always talk numbers stick in my head like there are no more names. Not my
To be
Chairs
playing on a
to sit
loop.
in,
Maybe I can translate it.
nice chairs to sit in. Pull it up like that. When you're not on the phone. Loving your day job.
That is for the hearings, the public hearings. That's the new tiny Marlin Village. They had to
They adjust.
adjust one of the lot sizes due to the ditch concerns. So,
It just,
Yeah.
it didn't look like what I remember seeing from before,
yeah.
for some reason.
And it's pretty good. It's just easier to see it on this
I
than
think
on-
that's what
Yeah.
it just looked different because maybe it was true.
Hi, Lori. Did you find parking? Yeah.
I was just like, oh my God, I might be really late.
David Black.
I was like, I can't read that.
He just walked up and handed them out. Okay, I will go ahead and call this meeting to order dated April 19th, 2022. The time is now 6:33. Roll call, please.
Trustee Awe. Here. Trustee Dallison. Here. Trustee Harts.
Here?
Trustee Luke. Trustee Moreland. Here. Trustee Cesaro. Here. And Mayor Tarkington.
Here.
6 present, 1 absent.
Would everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Does the board have any conflicts of interest to announce at this time?
Mustang Crossing.
Okay, so you'll recuse yourself from
All discussions.
Okay. Okay, and then for myself,
Would that be all discussions and decisions?
Absolutely, yeah, and I've already had a conversation
Oh.
with Trustee Aw, and he acknowledges the fact that he had done some work with regards to, I think, the sketch plans and so forth, so it's appropriate that he's
Okay.
entirely.
okay,
That'd be great.
thank you. And then item 2D, I just, for the record, we're talking about Gem Village commercial sewer taps. My business is now hooked up to LaPlade, so this no longer pertains to me. So just for the record, throwing it out there. Anybody else? All right. Now is the time for general public input, limited to 10 minutes, 3 minutes per speaker. If you would like to address the board not pertaining to items on the agenda, go ahead and step forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
Phyllis Ludwig, 9205 County Road 521. Just a simple request. Would everyone please put their mics where us old folks can hear them a little better? It was hard last time. The mayor's only one we really can hear very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Brian Blanchard, 627 Louisiana Drive. In general, my comments are I am concerned about the intersections at Mars and Buck Highway, and also Clover and the Parkway. Mustang Crossing will add anywhere from 300 to 600 cars at each spot. Plus, you've got the new PUD kicking in another 170 cars a day. So between those two subdivisions, you're almost doubling what the number of vehicles are that use it currently. And I don't know how many of you have driven on the intersection of Mars and Buck Highway, but that's a tricky, tough intersection. So I would comment that I think Public Works needs to take a serious look at that and say, is this going to be able to support the number of vehicles that we're going to be dumping into these two critical intersections? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Right. Did the board have a chance to look at the agenda?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Aw.
Yay.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, at this time, I would like to acknowledge Earth Day, or our Arbor Day celebration. In accordance with the established custom of setting apart a day in spring for planting of trees, I do designate April 22nd, 2022 Arbor Day in the town of Bayfield, Colorado. Arbor Day is not just another holiday, it is a promise to future generations to enrich our community with trees that will be a source of beauty and joy in our lives for years to come. In 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for planting of trees, and this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. By observing Arbor Day, we demonstrate to all the value we place on trees in our community. The Town Tree Board will celebrate Arbor Day April 22nd, 2022 at 1 p.m. The Tree Board, with the assistance from Parks and Rec, will plant 3 trees at the Bayfield Primary School in recognition of Arbor Day. This day is the day we celebrate trees in our community. I urge all citizens to plant trees as a way to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future Bayfield generations. Given under my hand on this 19th day of April 2022. And I think Becky will talk about Arbor Day a little more in depth. Okay, moving on. Did everybody get a chance to look at the minutes from April 5th, 2022?
Madam Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve the regular meeting April 5th, 2022 minutes as presented by the town clerk.
I second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, comment? Roll call.
Trustee Aw.
Yay.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro
Yes.
and Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, Becky, would you like to highlight your staff report?
Yeah, I got a couple things to add. One thing that didn't make the report, Roland Madrid, he is our full-time park maintenance worker. He turned in his letter of resignation, so he'll be done about May 17th. So right now we're scrambling to bring someone in as quickly as possible. We do have Milo coming back as a seasonal parks worker kind of about the same time, so Mark won't be by himself out there. So, but like I just said, we are advertising for that position right now. Going off of Mayor Tarkington, Arbor Day is Friday at 1 p.m. at the primary school, so if you guys can attend, that'd be great. We got the first grade class to also attend, and there's about 100 kiddos that are going to come. They did a poster contest, so we got probably like 90 of these in the office, and so we're going through and trying to pick out the top 5, which is very difficult. But if you guys can come, that'd be great. We'll do, Mayor Tarkington will read the proclamation again. We'll go through, announce the winners for this. Smokey Bear will be there. Grasshopper and my staff will be planting 3 trees, and Mark Lovell from the state of Colorado will be talking about the importance of Arbor Day. So should be a good event if you guys can make it.
Perfect. All right, Katie, do you have anything you would like to highlight in your report?
Well, I'm very excited. Bustang is coming to Bayfield. They asked for approval to use the bus stop that's on the other side of the street from the library. And we have no formal process for them to be approved. So we just told them that you're approved. Very excited to have Bustang. Bustang is more of a Colorado bus transportation. They'll go from Denver to Bayfield to Durango, and also medical appointments in Grand Junction. So that's a big plus for Bayfield. Also, looking at the energy performance contracting, I understand that there's been some energy audits for the water plant, and we'll find out what other audits are more recent. But we have an option basically to upgrade and reduce our energy consumption, and with more of a long-term financing should those improvements cost. And just so you're aware, the heating and air conditioning here at Town Hall, at one point the staff told the maintenance people that they didn't want to sign the maintenance agreement. So the computer that actually operates the heating and cooling here in Town Hall was thrown away. So we do a lot of rigging, and GARS is our vendor, and they have come out here and they said, they shake their head. They said it's a replacement is what you're looking at. You'll never fix the system that you have, because the system relied on a computer that's no longer exists. So anyway, that will be something that we'll be looking into for Bayfield, including all of our facilities, including the senior center, looking at a way to reduce that energy consumption. And we have that set at 70 degrees almost day and night, winter and summer, trying to figure out a way to alleviate, heating it when nobody's there or cooling it when nobody's there. So a lot of changes that we could make, and hopefully to spend some more time on that. So.
All right, does the board have any questions for Katie? We will move on to our Gym Village commercial sewer tap rate discussion.
Good evening. So I guess we're really looking for some clarification from the board in regards to some of the commercial accounts in Gym Village. We've recently adopted a new rate structure, and we're finding that with the adoption of that, there is a little bit of confusion regarding some of the commercial customers that are operated off wells. So it's really clear to apply the rate structure if we have a water tap size and can quantify that consumption. But we've ran into some challenges with some of the people that aren't on municipal water. So we provided a memo tonight with some example commercial structure rate structures for some of these accounts, as well as recommendation from staff what we think might be appropriate moving forward until either these customers could be served by municipal water with a defined tap size. Then we would apply the rate structure appropriately. So I don't know if you guys had a chance to read that memo.
And what we're determining is that some of these businesses that are commercial basically have a bathroom. A well, as you can imagine, is not gonna, there's no way, well, there is a way to put a meter on it, but it is expensive. To put a meter on a well, it would have to be plumbed, and those are things that aren't a typical standard type of element. So, you know, we're kind of looking at, when we applied these rates, it seemed to work, but when we really got out to Gem Village, where there is no water service, no purveyor of water service other than a well for some of the businesses, they have that option to go to La Plata if they decide to do a pre-annexation agreement, but not many of them need that type of water volume, so.
Questions, comments, thoughts, feelings? Yeah, I mean, I think that the customers that needed the water, they bought in to La Plata, and I think that there was a demand for it. But like you said, I think some of those businesses, they're not even using.
That's correct.
They're
And,
not
you know,
using.
really what we try to do without being to be able to quantify that water usage or the tap size, we looked at town code. We looked at the infrastructure design standards that were adopted by the town. We extrapolated those tap sizes from code and then applied them to those residents out in Gem Village, for example, where those commercial customers are. And it doesn't really seem like it's a one-size-fits-all solution. So we're looking to adjust that appropriately, and it seems like some of them, their bills increased rather substantially.
So if you're, this is just a discussion, but if you would like to see a resolution, it would probably be a supplement to Resolution 506. You know, there's a couple minor things that we missed in this whole process in the last 6 months of 2021. However, there's just a couple other minor things. We just need to make sure that when we lost, they weren't big things, but the little things that we just would need to add. So it'd just be a supplement to 506. It would not change anything actually in the resolution.
So can we compare some of these businesses that are out there to something in town already?
Yes.
We can. So we do have.
Yeah, we
those-
gave you a comparison on page 14 of the handout. We kind of gave you what it's going to be in town for commercial. So we kind of gave you an example for an in-town commercial at a 1-inch tap or commercial a 3/4-inch tap. On that page would be $120 for a 1-inch tap, and B, a 3/4-inch tap would be $98.50. Currently, right now, the bill should be $165. There was a misunderstanding about the residential 6,000 gallons. That was not the intent of the resolution. So they were charged $187.50. However, we're gonna, as staff, we can credit back that error. But we can't really make this decision on somebody on a well because it's kind of a completely different decision by only the board has the authority to make. What we are suggesting is a 3/4, just assuming that they're a 3/4-inch tap. We can't go smaller than that because there is no smaller. It's actually a 5/8-inch tap, but it's been traditionally called 3/4-inch. It would be $117.75 for the base rate. We could make it a default for 2,000 gallons or just completely remove the default because it's likely they don't use that type of water using a well. The I&I fee is still charged with $5 and the $10 lift station. Keep in mind that lift station at some point is going to have to be replaced, and that's a $500,000 lift station that in the past the citizens in town have been paying for that capital improvement. So that would either be $140 including the default of 2,000 gallons or remove that $7.50. You would have 132.75.
What's anyone's thoughts on that default of the 2,000 gallons? Let's keep it or get rid of it?
So they don't even come close to using the 2,000?
I mean, I think.
It's not likely they're using 2,000 with a
Yeah.
bathroom and a sink.
Mhm.
I would say keep it. I say keep it.
Keep it.
Keep
Because
it.
that, how much it would cost to replace that lift station.
Well, we are start managing the actual cost of operation now, which we have not done before regarding that lift station. We do not apply that same lift station fee to in-town residents. It's only out-of-town residents. And so at some point, there will be a point where we're going to have to replace it. And I don't think we're going to come up with $500,000 in the next couple of years, but it's a start.
Yeah, it's somewhere to begin at least.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think this is a pretty good compromise of.
I do too.
So what if there's a location that is using more than 2,000 gallons of well water? Or what if that changes at some point? I mean,
Well, that's where we're kind of stuck in this unique situation, is that we can't quantify that usage.
Okay.
So we're either going to need to estimate it at some type of an impact for water usage, or maybe eliminate it. I don't know what that is. That's kind of for you to decide with the out-of-town sewer customers. But that's the challenge that we're facing, is without a defined water tap and municipal service for usage, what should we be billing those out-of-town customers at that additional cost for the service?
I think some of those businesses, are, a lot of times they're using their well water to power wash machinery or, but that's not going into our sewer plant
That's true.
So
Okay.
I think I think we keep it. I think we just kind of, we win some, we lose some on.
Any other questions?
So I just want to make sure you're okay with $117.75 for any commercial business in Gem Village. We'll just assume it's the smallest you can get. There'll be a default of 2,000 gallons, which we'll assume is going into the system, $7.50. The INI fee, which every customer pays, is $5, and the lift station, which is only to those that actually use a lift station, $10, and it'd be about $140.25. It's going to knock $40 off. But it's certainly, I don't think we're ever going to ask Gem Village to pay a $500,000 lift station when it fails, so. Yep.
So this would just be for the customers that are on a well service. If they were served with municipal water or had a defined tap size, we'd revert back to the original rate structure with out-of-town rates and then charge them appropriately per their tap size. Just so you're aware, we have a handful of customers out there that we're really kind of juggling, trying to figure out how to charge appropriately. But if LaPlade was to serve them, then they would be billed for the tap size that LaPlade would supply for that sewer rate.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, is that good enough direction?
Yes, thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to our financial agenda items. Do we have any general public input pertaining to items 3A through C on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to our March 2022 financial statement.
Okay, so currently, 25% of the 2022 fiscal year has lapsed. In the general fund, we have $4,985.96 out of the $5,000 that we budgeted for the election that will go unexpended. You'll notice that the IT consulting is high in a lot of the funds. This is due to the addition of new employees, upgrades to the boardroom, and the purchase of the new Surface computers for the Board of Trustees. In the sewer fund, the supplies line item is already at 60.4% expended. That includes the annual purchase of polymer for $8,500. So that's why that line item is so high right now. In the water fund, there's $124,581 and some change, a receipt in the DOLA water line project. when we do the audit, that will be adjusted back to 2021. That was the final payment for the 2021 project. Also, in the water fund, we've discovered a budgeting error in the electricity line items. These line items were budgeted too low, and that's something that we're going to talk to the Public Works Director, and we're going to look into that and see how to fix that. So that's all for the financials. I have started the process of consolidating the Calla Trust accounts. I waited until after the 1st of April to start that process. So I wanted to make sure that all the interest had been credited correctly to all the accounts before I started closing and making those switches. We've also started making the changes so that all transactions electronically and on over-the-phone payments, things like that, everything incoming and outgoing are going through the operations checking account, which is the one checking account that we're keeping. And so we're pretty close to having everything out of that special checking account so we can get that account closed out. The check signatures has been updated to include Town Manager Sickles, Mayor Tarkington, Trustee Dallison, and Public Works Director Schultz. So my name has been taken off of the accounts. I can't sign any checks. And Hinton Burdick, Kelly Jones, our auditor, will be here on Monday to start our audit process. That's it.
Right. Any questions from the board? I would entertain a motion to approve the March 2022 financial statement.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Awe.
Yay.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Hartz.
Yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
Moving on to sales tax. Kathy, do you have an update for that?
Well, actually, she doesn't.
Okay.
It was my error. When you look at them, it looks the same. January in comparison to last January, it looks exactly like 2021. Year to date is 2022. Well, it just happens to be their exact same months. So you've got all of January in the first bar graph and all of January in both years in the second graph. So that's why I just didn't pick that up when I noticed that. But anyway, it is correct.
All right, still trending nicely. All right, moving on to the Pine River Senior Center interior auto door retrofit.
So the automatic door has not operated. This is the interior automatic door. There's an exterior automatic door that was replaced, from what I understand, a couple years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, and it was not $10,000. However, there's things have changed in that time. So currently, right now, the vendor, Sunglass LLC, has looked at it, and they said that they're either going to refurbish it or retrofit it. It'd be $2,500, and if they have to replace it, it's $10,265, and that's a big difference. However, if the refurbishment and the retrofit does not work, then we're buying a new door anyway. So it's really your call. We do have money budgeted to do some improvements at the senior center, and it's certainly your call if you decide to do that. But we're recommending that we go ahead and replace the door versus retrofit it and then come back and have to pay for a door.
I know the warranty is a 1-year warranty on the new door, but how long is the lifespan of those things? Do you know?
I'm not a lifespan.
I don't know the lifespan, but there's a sticker on the door and it said it expired in 6-7 years ago.
Oh, okay.
The door did itself, so.
And the county doesn't want to?
I know, that's my thought on
County
this.
doesn't want to help us out on this?
Or even the senior center board, if we could get some help with that kind of bill, that's a lot of money. I think we should definitely ask the county because they have the senior center operations and they get all of their funding.
Right.
And so I think we should ask them, and Mike Seacrest has suggested that we ask him as well at a meeting that we had with him. So I think we should try to divvy up the cost.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge expense for the town.
Well, how often do we ask the county for anything for the
We have
senior center?
never asked.
Well,
Right there.
We have never asked.
Right there. So,
So it's
I mean,
very
we
important.
can ask the county to take the senior center back as well while we're in discussion. But, I would feel comfortable, I would like to reach out to the county and see if we can have that discussion
Yeah.
before how critical, how dangerous is it? I mean, the outdoor still locks, right? So
Yeah,
we're
it's a double
secure while we,
Just losing more
You're-
heat,
well,
like we talked
you're
about
heat.
earlier.
I mean,
and-
it's gonna be a different situation when it gets warmer, because there is a lot of heat escaping out of the current door.
Yeah,
But
sure.
we have a little spring to worry about.
I mean, I have a feeling I know what the county's gonna say, but I think,
No harm in asking.
right,
No.
So we could ask them for 50%.
yeah.
Just start there,
Yeah.
if that's okay with.
Because it's not technically budgeted, I mean, for what
It
we,
was not technically budgeted for this door.
for this door. I know we have money budgeted, but,
So I guess my question would be, is if the county will budget 50, or will provide 50% of the funding, will the Board of Trustees approve the other 50% funding for this door?
it'll probably be a lot less than if somebody easily breaks in and steals a bunch of stuff.
yeah, I mean,
Replace
I
it,
think the
so-
door needs to be replaced, so I think
Yeah, I'm for replacing.
being
I'm
replaced,
fixing.
so.
Yeah, I don't want to do the fixing.
So
And
we'll-
if it lasted 6 or 7 years prior to that, past the
Didn't we just say
expiration
we
date.
saved over $4,000 by not having an election? So that would be a little under half of paying for this. So if the county does half, we have money saved from the election to cover. That
And it's
wasn't
in the
planned.
general fund, both of those expenditures.
Good.
Yeah, so I guess we'll reach out.
Yeah, we're definitely willing to put up the
Half.
cost. Yes.
So could I just get a motion for like 5,160 or 130?
Well, so what if the county comes back and says no?
Okay, I'll just
Back to
hold
it.
that then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think we all realize it needs to be replaced, so I think we'll pony up the money, but I
Okay,
would like to feel it out first.
cool.
Is that,
Yeah, because we
Yes.
could be coming back to, it's $10,000 again.
Yeah, it's just gonna be
So.
May, and the quote is longer than, I remember seeing a 30-day net. I'm sure we can get it extended at least to May 3rd, past May 3rd.
okay, so we'll revisit this next meeting. Okay. We good? Everybody good with that decision? All right. At this time, I will close the regular meeting and open the public hearing. Keep in mind, we do have a staff presentation. We have the applicant presentation, and then we will have time for questions and answers from the audience.
First item is the Marlin Village preliminary plan. And this, those of you that have been on the board of trustees for a while, this you've seen this, I think, 4 times now. And for those of you that are new to the board, I did try and outline in the staff report a little bit more of the history and the findings and conditions that have been approved at each stage of the process, to hopefully help you understand what's happened for this project so far, but I'll give you a brief recap of this. So Linda and Mark Head own the property. It's located on the corner of 509 and Bayfield Parkway, that northeast corner. Was annexed into the town recently. So the first process they went through was they needed to do a comprehensive plan amendment, and that was last April. Then they annexed into the town and created an initial zoning of plan unit development in December. They came before both planning commission and the board in March for their sketch plan, and now they are in front of you for their preliminary plan. Their next stage is the final plan, which I believe they're hoping to be really just to finalize any of those documents that, staff or engineers, or other review agencies have had comments on, and get that finalized. The other big pieces of the final plan is because it's a plan unit development, they do have to provide a plan unit development guide agreement, which a plan unit development is, a negotiated zoning. It's a zoning, they wanted to do use that really didn't fit into our code under straight zoning, so they're doing a special zoning. And so the plan unit development guide actually helps create those standards for this project. So we record that, and that way anybody can pull that document and see what their setbacks are, what their use is, what's allowed on the site. Because you can't just look at straight zoning and see that for this project. So that's the guide, and then they also, for all projects, we do the subdivision improvement agreement, which they are not doing a subdivision, so at some point in the future, I'd like to change the name of that, because it applies to all projects that have public improvements, not just subdivisions, but that'll come to you in another time. But what that agreement does is it outlines their responsibility for installing public improvements, the warranty period for that, the inspection period for that, and so that's all in one document. That'll be a little bit different than what you're seeing at the preliminary plan stage right now. For this project, it is a 15-space tiny home on Wills Village. It's going to remain under the same ownership that owns it right now, so they will be leasing the spaces out, and they want them to be owner-occupied tiny homes, so you can't rent it out, you can't sublet it, no vacation rentals. It'll be for owners of those tiny homes who come in and lease a space. Most of their spaces will be 40 feet by 25. They have one space that's going to be 35 feet long, just because of its location to the King Ditch. Again, the tiny homes will be owner-occupied. They are going to provide covered storage. They don't want to see outdoor storage at the tiny home, so they'll be providing a covered storage area. They're going to require skirting for all the tiny homes. Each tiny home will get 2 parking spaces, and there'll be additional 5 guest parking spaces. They're proposing xeriscape for their landscaping. They're also going to have approximately 1,000 square foot community garden for the residents, as well as a pavilion, tables, and grills. So this is just a site plan that shows the tiny home layout with each space. They're going to be accessing the property off of Bayfield Parkway and County Road 509, and the county did give them an access, amended their access permit recently, so they've got that approved. And we're just in the process of kind of finalizing some of their engineering, providing comments back and forth on that before they submit for their final plan. And this is just a little preview rendering of what the sustainability is going to look like. One other thing I want to point out that you'll see in your packet is, because it's a planning development, it's negotiated, they can ask for, the code calls it variances to the standards, but really it's a negotiated standard. They don't have to meet the code, the letter of the code, because it's a negotiated zone. And so what they're proposing to do is put in a 6-foot corrugated metal fence around as a perimeter, just to provide some privacy for the residents. And part of their fence will be within the setbacks of like what would be normally like a multifamily zone. And so they're asking to put the fence within those setbacks. Again, because this is negotiated, I wouldn't call it a variance, it'd be just a condition on their approval that they would be allowed to set the fence. Because the right-of-way is quite large here, they're still quite a way set back from Bayfield Parkway, but they are within the setback area. So I want to point that out. I won't read all this because this is in your packet, but if you do need me to bring this back up for findings and conditions, I can do that when you're ready to make your motion. And then again, 3 possible motions for this project. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have as staff, and then the applicant is present if you have questions of him as well.
Any questions from the board? Does the applicant need to address the board or have any comments? Does the board have any questions for the applicant?
I really like this project.
At this time, we can open it up for general public input. If anybody would like to make comments. All right, seeing none. We will move on to our 2022-05 Mustang Crossing preliminary plan. And does Tom have to leave for the public hearing?
I think it
Just-
just step down
Okay.
off the dais. That'd be great, just show the appearance of any influence or anything. Yeah.
So the second project is Mustang Crossing. Again, this one, very similar to the last project. It's been one of the existing, board of trustees a few times now. This one is straight zoning though, it's not a planning and development, so we've been reviewing this, under straight zoning within the code. And the applicants are present as well for this one. Location, it is located directly east of the Mesa Meadows subdivision and, south of the new Clover Meadows 7 subdivision. It's an approximately 35-acre lot. This they also went through the comprehensive plan amendment process in October. It was annexed into the town in January, but we haven't finalized annexation. You'll see another item tonight that needs to be cleaned up before we can finalize the annexation. And then they came through a sketch plan in February and the preliminary plan last month, right now. And then they are also proposing to come back in May for their final plan review. I won't go through the same slide, but similar to Marlin, the only difference is, again, they're not a planning development, so they don't have to provide that planning and development guide. So really, it's just the subdivision improvement agreement. However, because they are subdividing the lots, they will have an HOA. We'll also be reviewing codes, covenants, and restrictions, or declarations, whatever they want to call those, for this project. The project proposal is 85 single-family lots. It was a reduction. Originally, they were asking for 85, and they've made some adjustments based on some of the things they've heard at Planning Commission and Board of Trustees, as well as some staff responses to their project. And so that has reduced their project to 81 lots, again on 35 acres. They are proposing to do it in 2 phases. Phase 1 will have 47 and phase 2 would have 34 lots. I think the main reason for that, and they can address that in more detail, but the main reason is they're still working with the Schroeder Ditch Company about, to determine the relocation and design of the Schroeder Ditch, and so that would be part of phase 2, so that gives them a little bit more time to figure out that piece for phase 2. They're proposing 6.4 acres of open space areas, which includes a small pocket park, detention facilities, a shared use path, and open space buffer. This is their newer plan. They've made some adjustments since the last time you've seen it. Our code does require them to have, it requires them to consider mid-block access points for pedestrians. And so they did do that. They have provided some, to break up their blocks, so you can see some of these mid-block crossings. They've also, this corner right here, the original lots did not meet our dimensional requirements in the code, so they've had to kind of change that, so it's no longer, it was almost like a private drive looking configuration originally. They've added another stormwater detention pond. And then one of the bigger changes that is a little different than what you've seen in the past is they're showing now half of the park becoming a detention pond. But what they're proposing to do is a pond that's got a gentler slope to it so that you can still actually utilize it as a play area when it's not dealing with water from a storm event. That is becoming common in a lot of communities now, to try and utilize the stormwater detention ponds beyond just letting them sit there and not be utilized for other purposes. So it's not uncommon to see that, but I can let them address that in a little more detail in terms of slopes. But that's probably one of the bigger changes. And then also this putting in this road, which will help them with their phased approach, having a connector road for phase 1. And again, I won't go through all the findings and conditions. I did want to point out a couple things though. They did go before the planning commission for a resource extraction use by review permit, and that was because they have a gas facility located within close proximity to where they want to put residential. The planning commission did review the staff report, and had a public hearing on it. Some of the comments were, from community members, particularly was, to use the La Plata County standards for setbacks. We can't do that just because we haven't adopted them. We actually don't have any adopted standards for oil and gas facilities. So another thing that hopefully we can work on this summer, and piggyback on what the county's doing for their amendments to their oil and gas regulations. But their oil and gas facility, they're proposing to set that back 150 feet from any property lines, which is consistent with what was approved for Mason Meadows facility. And then they also have gathering lines on the north and east side, as well as water lines, and they have existing easements there. And we're running into some issues in Dove Ranch where some property owners have expanded into that easement area with maybe fences or sheds or other types of landscape items that if for some reason the oil and gas facility ever needs to be maintained or those gathering lines need to be maintained, they're gonna have to pull out all those structures. And so for this case, we didn't want to create a situation that we knew could end up being a problem in the future, so we really tried to work with the applicant to come up with a situation that is, we can prevent now during the planning stage of it from becoming more of an issue. And so what they propose to do is put in like a split rail fence along, I believe they said there's only 7 lots now that might have some of their property go within that easement, which is allowed, they just can't build structures in there. And so they're gonna put in a split rail fence right at that easement line. We're gonna call it like a no-build area, make sure it's highlighted on the plat. And so those 7 lots will have to make sure they don't put structures into that area. But a continuous split rail, just so everybody knows where that boundary is of where the trail on the easement is. And that's the other thing too, is ICAV is the one I've been working with, that's overseeing the oil and gas facility. And they actually were quite happy that there's gonna be a soft surface trail over the easement rather than more property lines where they will run into fence issues in the future. So to them, a soft surface trail is something that they can remove easily if they have to go on and do maintenance and things like that. So they were more agreeable to that type of situation. So that's
Which
probably
lots are talking about, Nicole, those 7 lots? Can you identify for us which lots those are?
I might look at the.
It's-
Okay, great, thank you.
And then, like I said, I'll make sure it's more clear on the plat, because it's really hard to eyeball those
Yeah.
on the plat right now. So I'll have them point out which lots those are. And I'll make sure there's nothing else. So that was approved by the planning commission. Oh, yes, so the use by review does not come to the board of trustees. The planning commission makes that decision unless they denied it and the applicant appealed it. So that item has been approved. And then again, just similar conditions, we need to work with them on some of the refinements of the plans. We just got some additional engineering comments from our engineer that we'll be forwarding on to them as well. And we'll continue to work with them refining that as they submit for their final plan approval. And the other thing I do want to point out, I mentioned this at the planning commission, is right now geotech reports are behind. And so it's all of our projects right now are struggling to get those in their hands. And so we've been conditioning, usually we like to see that at preliminary stage, but we understand that, that's just not happening right now. So instead of pulling them up, we're conditioning that we wouldn't allow any type of foundations or infrastructure to be put in until we see those reports, because those do provide us the mitigation measures to determine that foundations are being designed correctly and infrastructure is being installed correctly. So a little bit different than what we would normally prefer, but trying to continue to work with the developers as well so they can move to the process. And that's really all I have for that one. Happy to answer any questions, and I know the applicants are here, and I think maybe they might be able to address Michael's question as well in more detail.
I don't know who to address my question to.
Fire, fire away.
I was looking in the comments, because we talked to Public Works and Law and Fire. I noticed that Upper Pine had a concern with Phase 2, and I didn't know if he meant when we were talking about developing the first few lots or the second few lots, or if he meant if there was a Phase 2, a whole different development.
So what their comment was, and I think they'll want to provide more detail, but for phase 2, they'd like to see some sort of roadway heading east.
What is,
So
can you define Phase 2? Because we just talked about they're
this is
building
right
half and
here.
half.
So it's kind of that, it's hard to see, but
It's a
if
whole
you look at
left side of the-
printed new maps,
Yeah.
it's the
You have a big
darker
one.
area on the east side.
Okay, perfect.
So there's like a phase line in the middle.
I should have
and
looked
so
at the
it's
map,
the
sorry.
darker-
Okay.
It's that darker area,
Mhm,
so
okay.
that's phase 2. And what Upper Pine asking is they'd like to see maybe a connector road heading east that gets to 526. Right now, the city's comprehensive plan does show that Mustang will come up and then turn north and head into where 526 has that big bend. And so that's, right now, the proposed main road to access 526. But Upper Pine's asking, well, if development continues to go east, shouldn't we ask for a road there? And so that's something that I think is worthy of a discussion with the developer. When they come in for their final plan, they're really gonna be just showing phase 1, they're not gonna do phase 2, but I
Okay.
think it's something that the developer has seen now and something that we should consider as a community.
Would this road, when I'm looking at this, because we have Road C, are we talking that it would be going through one of those lots there?
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, originally, before they submitted this new plan, when I saw that comment, I was thinking, well, maybe just south of the oil and gas, but now there's, detention there, so I don't know, without
Okay.
them losing a lot, I don't know how that would work, so again, we'll have to have that
Okay,
conversation.
thank you.
But it, you know, if you wanna weigh in on any thoughts on that, that'd be great to hear from the board of trustees as well.
I would love to see that road, so that there's a road to somewhere, that this will be happening in a future plan. Personally, I think there should be another way into
Another way
this-
out, yeah.
Another way in and out of this development, and if the town's comprehensive plan is for that to happen, I don't think we should be waiting to see what happens on the south end of this.
So our comprehensive plan doesn't show
Not the-
that.
okay.
It shows Mustang coming up and then heading north and connecting to 526 on that. In fact, I actually have.
I feel like you're doing something with your mouse, and we are not seeing it up on the screen.
It's so fun, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Okay, so maybe I misunderstood. Okay.
So this is the Mustang Crossing project.
We can't see what,
Yeah.
oh,
But
no.
your
Doesn't
mouse
show
is,
up up
yeah.
there.
Yeah. I was like, every time you're doing that, I'm like, what is she doing?
So here's where Mustang Crossing is,
Yes.
and here's Mustang. And right now, the comprehensive plan shows the road coming, Mustang going over and coming up and connecting where the 526 has the bend.
Okay.
So it's not showing anything going
kinda
east,
cool.
but that
Oh, that
doesn't
would
mean
be
it's
great.
something we can't discuss. It's
Okay.
just the comprehensive plan right now is not showing the road going east.
Okay.
I'd rather just see Mustang keep going east.
Yes.
I mean, that makes more sense to me than adding that into this subdivision. And making them change it all over again.
Any other questions from the board?
I don't have a question, but I am concerned with the only 150-foot setback on that gas well, because all of the gas companies would be held to a 2,000-foot setback, and I think 150 is very minuscule. And I know we're setting a precedent in a way with Mesa Meadows, but I think a lot has changed in regulations since that subdivision was put in. I'm having a hard time with it. It's very little.
And that came up in planning commission, and, you know, if this subdivision couldn't happen with the current, you know, rules,
Well,
regulations.
technically, they'd only lose 2 houses.
No, the 2,000 foot, you would lose.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
no, 2,000 is a lot. And
Yeah.
especially with us not having that in our code. And I mean, even with, if we followed La Plata County's code, it would only be 500. I mean, we just kind of set up oil and gas for failure in a lot of ways and let developers do whatever they want. So, yeah, I have a really hard time with 150.
For this, right now, the state doesn't even have a requirement.
Yep.
The 2,000 is if you want to put a new oil and gas facility near residential, but they don't have that reciprocal if you want to put residential near oil and gas.
Right.
And so as a statutory city, that's where I look to, because I can't technically use LaPlata's,
Sure.
codes and standards, but I look to the state, and there's really not anything. So we do really need to adopt our own, and so it's definitely something on our list to do, especially as, you know, Bayfield's gonna continue to grow in areas that have oil and gas. There's a lot of oil and gas
Ton.
east of us, so, definitely wanna put that in place for the future.
And I have a couple of, I don't know, they're not questions, really more just concerns. So there's two phases. Sometimes a developer won't finish their phases. So you'll have one phase that gets done and the other one that doesn't. And it looks like our pocket park is in the second phase. And so I know that for the people in our community, they were very concerned that we were going to have a new development and not have enough park space. And so it kind of concerns me on two levels, that one, we have to use part of that park space as detention pond. I get that it's sloped minorly, but you're still using the park for that. And two, if that second phase doesn't ever get developed, I'm worried that we won't end up with a park at all.
The road also concerns me in that way too. I mean, if I would be much more comfortable if the entire road was built and maybe the houses were not built in the second phase until they were ready, so that there's the road, the bottom down is taken care of, and we would have that park, and we'd have the option of hooking into 526 as well.
I'll let the developer kind of address.
Yep.
Is that all the questions you have?
Yeah, that's it for me.
Okay, well, go ahead and let the applicant maybe address some of those concerns.
Thank you. Paul O'Neill with SEH Engineering out of Durango, Colorado. Civil engineer for Glen Moselle, the developer. Had a few things I wanted to add, but Nicole did a pretty good job of talking about the changes, so I wanted to talk about a few of the things specifically that came up. We were talking about the 7 lots that were impacted by the easement. I was incorrect last time when I said 7 lots. There's actually 18 lots. This whole northern boundary has about a 10-foot impact of the gas easement. These 5 and these 2 have about a 40-foot impact. So there's 16 that have the 10-foot impact, where we would be placing the split rail fence along that easement line, and then delineating the property line with either some boulders or some planters, something that's not physically in the ground. And then these lots would have more of a 40-foot impact, which would be addressed the same way.
Are those 5 included in 18, or the 18 plus those 5?
It's 18 plus those 5.
But, yeah, I think that's what I thought, and I said something around
Yep. 23, yeah. You were correct, Nicole. Another thing we want to point out, that the reason, maybe not the reason, but one of the reasons the roads aren't heading east is one of the neighbors was pretty vocal in the early neighborhood meetings and did not want any connections to their property shown on our plan. And so that was one of the reasons that only the 2 connections to the south and the one to the north and the one on Louisiana were proposed. Also, the comp plan did show Mustang, which immediately parallels this to the north as the connector to 526 in the future. That's why this plan does not show those to the east. Another thing, talking about the gas well setbacks, just wanted to kind of put those distances in a little bit different scale. So 150 foot radius, which is what we're proposing, takes out about 1.6 acres in a circle. 200 foot radius takes out about 3 acres, 2.9 acres. A 500 foot radius takes out an 18 acre circle from development if you were to impose those setbacks. The 2,000 foot radius is about 288 acres. So I don't know exactly why those regulations were written the way they were, but it seems like it was pro-development and anti-oil and gas, like you stated. And then some of the other comments as far as the phasing, we're open to discuss some of moving that phasing line. The main reason for the phasing line is the impacts to the Campbell lateral of the Schroeder ditch and ongoing work with the Army Corps of Engineers. By phasing it, we could potentially start construction of phase 1 this summer, with phase 2 to occur later this fall or potentially next year. Those were kind of just the notes I made while we were talking, but happy to answer any other questions.
Did you have anything else? I think that was it on the notes. Yeah, Katie.
Yeah.
Were you jotting them down? Does the board have any questions for the applicant?
I guess, can we show, I'm just trying to figure out where the future of connection to 526 is. I pulled it up on my computer and I'm
She
just,
showed us.
I'm not visualizing it, of how Mustang gets to 526, if it's not cutting through someone else's property.
It is coming from someone.
Yeah, okay,
Yep, the same property owner that.
okay. Because I'm seeing like two houses and a driveway going north.
Yep, so here is the blue dashed line
Mhm.
is the proposed 526
Okay.
connection.
Okay.
The yellow property is owned by the Tones.
Uh-huh.
Half of this green property is the Mustang.
Yes, okay. So Mustang would have to then be that dotted line?
Yep.
That's the plan, okay.
Yeah, it's Mustang that connects it.
Okay. Okay. No, thank you very much.
Who was it that said they thought they needed that east road out of there?
It's public comment.
Oh, just public. I don't find it necessary.
Good evening, I'm Glenn Moselle from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And again, just here to say thank you and really appreciate all the comments from staff and the neighbors in helping shape this neighborhood. And here to answer any questions. Regarding the Mustang, we see that as a collector road, and if the lands to the east were developed, we would see that as the main arterial. So again, we looked at extending to the east directly through the property, but decided against it, especially with the Tone Ranch comments.
Okay.
And we are hoping to deliver lots later this year and deliver homes as soon as possible. We are working on our CCNRs, and we are emphasizing a modern farmhouse, modern bungalow, modern prairie, modern ranch style theme. Our motto is becoming what would Chip and Joanna do.
Now we know who all the HGTV people in here are.
And truly, we're very excited about it. You know, emphasis on front porches, de-emphasizing garages. So anyway, we're hoping to deliver lots as soon as we can. Happy to answer any questions.
I don't know if this is a question for you or if it would be for Nicole, so you guys direct me. But I know when Mr. Blanchard was talking about the intersection of Mars and Buck Highway, and I know that intersection is also part of the town's trails or hiking trails, I think, too. And so we're talking about there being concern of more cars now if they go that way out of the development versus going north up Clover and the Parkway. I'm just wondering, and again, I don't know if it's a question for you or the town, but if there'd be consideration of, now that we're gonna expect more traffic at that three-way stop, if there's anything else we can do to enhance that roadway to be safer as one of the towns on the map of being a trail or a hiking trail, because it's already an interesting intersection where we had to put a flashing stop sign because people don't stop there, but now we're anticipating there will be more traffic.
So is there a way for us to be looking at that being safer for kids biking and walking and those types of things?
So we identified that intersection that needs improvement. Keep in mind that the stop sign that's there is where the county ends their maintenance. And I've talked to Jim Davis with the county and talked about an improvement. We'd like to look at I can't speak to the hiking trails or the trails there right now, but there is an intersection that needs improvement.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, at this time, I'll open it up for public comment. If anybody would like to address the board or the applicant.
A couple different ways. First, it'll be just general comments. Brian Blanchard, 627 Louisiana Drive. In regards to the well situation and the gathering lines, I know the board cannot put in place what we don't have, and that's rules and regs guiding you and guiding us as a community on how to address wells and gathering lines. But I do know that the board has the power to give direction to developers. And this is not going to be the only development coming up here in the near future that's going to have the same issue on it. So this is a general idea of encouraging the board to adopt something, encourage the developers to adopt something that we can use into the future. We're already now looking back and referencing back to Mesa Meadows. That's what's going to happen on all these developments, whether it's sidewalks or lighting. They're going to refer back to something else that we just didn't handle, in my opinion, properly. What the number is for a setback from the well to the property line, I don't know what the answer to that is. I know that the state is looking at expanding that, not reducing it. I think the city of Durango is doing the same thing. I just hate to see us go in the wrong direction on a major safety issue like that. So encouragement from the board, a direction on the board, 200 feet, 500 feet, whatever that number is that everybody's comfortable with, a compromise of some sort, I think is appropriate. The gathering lines are another issue. I think if you don't do something very specific with that, you're going to have issues like Dove Ranch and some of the other developments that I've seen where homeowners are not aware of what's on the plat. It's tiny little print, hard to read, and they get into a situation and then they're not happy. And I know iCave does not want that either. So for everybody's benefit, I think looking at those would be really helpful for the community. And then again, the intersections, Mars and Buck and Clover and Parkway, both are in fairly, poor condition. I think, is the town going to accept the responsibility with 800 more cars now on a daily basis to those areas, or is some of that passed on to the developers? And then we still hold out hope for a designated 3-acre park in this subdivision. I think it's appropriate. I think it's needed. I think it's wanted. I know the developer can do it. If he doesn't do phase 2, as been brought out, we will never have it. And I think it's important that we look at that. And then my other concern is, and this is just a question for the developers, on Road A, Road E, and the intersection of Louisiana Drive, where all three of those come together. What is that going to be? Because you don't have a straight shot down Road E onto Louisiana. And I looked over all the specs and all the schematics. I couldn't figure out what they were proposing, whether that Road E coming up towards Louisiana was going to be a 2-stop intersection or a 3-stop intersection. It appears to have to be a 3-stop. Is there a roundabout? What's going to slow these people down and allow them to jump onto Louisiana? And then when Louisiana comes down, is there going to be another intersection there with some way to slow these people down? And is that now becoming a 4-way stop? So I have some concerns about how they're going to do that, and it's more of a question for probably SEH on what they propose there as far as how they're going to work with that 300 to 600 cars a day in that one intersection. Thank you.
Brian, can I clarify something you said? Are you talking about a four-way stop at Hickory in Louisiana?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-oh.
Welcome back.
Put the timer on. I'm messing.
Is she gonna put the timer on?
No. We just know you like to talk.
Thanks for letting me get up to speak. I handed out a handout earlier.
Can you state your name and address for the
Black,
record, please?
606 Buck Highway, former trustee, so I have voted on this project, so I'm going to still have a little say on this as it goes forward. I think that some of the concerns that Mr. Blanchard has brought forth are indeed with merit, particularly with respect to the intersections. Now, you'll note I'm talking here a little bit about lot size, and we have 10,000 foot lot size pretty much throughout this, and that if we had done 7,000 foot lot size with the same density, we could have had a little bit more open space. And with that open space comes that park that everybody's concerned about. A couple specific things. Some of the maps that you guys were referring to had differences on lot 25. And then on Road D, your northern access, I believe that if that's to be properly developed, that should be a continuation with Sunflower Lane. Road A shows the same deficiency Louisiana had in its development, and let's see, one other thing here. Your Road A should go all the way south. It shouldn't stop. In fact, all of the roads that if you're proposing a two-phased project should go to the very end of the phasing. For whatever it's worth, I know Tones wouldn't like it, but Tones aren't going to own that land forever, or I would rather doubt it. I would build a road to the east, regardless. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nicole, can you show us Sunflower Lane? I can't find
I
it
know.
on Google. Can you show us Sunflower Lane, like where that?
Yeah, it's the one that's on the map. It's the one that's north and the Clover 7. So it's
Oh, right here.
very-
Okay.
Above lot 22.
It's very gray.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Greetings, good evening. My name is Jason Evans. I live at 303 Meadows Circle. And I may have a little bit of a unpopular opinion of this, but due to recent circumstances in our subdivision, I would stem to think about minimizing the effects on the HOA and the open spaces and make sure we think about the impact on the community and the likelihood of the individuals who are going to be purchasing these properties and the monthly costs associated with maintaining an HOA. Being thrust into that just recently and looking at the overall cost on the community, and ultimately could that have a blowback on the city long term and taking over that HOA or some of the responsibilities within that subdivision. So there's two rules of thought: either minimizing the maintenance required for that HOA, i.e. designing a very beautiful but high upkeep community, or the other thing would be to design a park that the city at some point would be okay with taking over. And I guess that would be the two rules of thought, because ultimately if a 3-acre playground park is installed into a community, the associated fees with maintaining said lot and the liability associated with that and through insurance would be extremely high for the HOA. And it would just be something to think about as we're designing a very beautiful community, but also a financial burden on the residents that are going to be living into this house. And if you're a first-time home buyer and you're trying to currently buy a house in this market, tacking on a larger HOA fee to your monthly fees or your annual fees would be kind of extensive. So just something to think about. As much as we're passionate about having this very developed community, is who we're trying to bring into the community and grow the community as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Excuse me, Kathy Francio, 606 Magnolia. Is it appropriate just to ask a few questions about the sketch plan? So originally, the perimeter trail, when you read about it, it says areas are going to be 30 to 60 feet. So in that, I noticed there's a 20-foot proposed drainage access, so I was wondering if they would take the time to explain that, where the 30 and the 60 feet perimeter trail might be, and the explanation for the drainage. Is that to go to the retention pond? Is there going to be a ditch there? So maybe if somebody could explain that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and I'm going to start with Nicole. Is that all the public input we have? Nicole, did you want to? We want to backtrack and see if staff can answer some of those first.
Yeah, so, I think Katie kind of did answer the Modern and Buck Highway, question that Brian also brought up. And then Brian brought up about the oil and gas regs, looking at different regulations, or that the board can actually have power to give direction to the developer on those. And then gathering line concerns, I think we've kind of addressed that by the developer putting in that split rail fence, which will help with that situation. Is it 100% foolproof? Probably not. I think the town may still have to do some enforcement or working with the HOA. That'll be in place at that time, possibly for some, but hopefully this will help compared to some of the other projects we've had. And then I did want to point out that ICAP did point out their gathering lines are not high, what do they call them, high pressure gathering lines, so they're not as the concerning ones as what some people think of when we've heard of some explosions in the past, which is really high pressure gathering lines. So I want to point that out since I had that conversation with them. And then I don't know the answer to a four-way stop at Hickory, Louisiana. We can work with the developer to see if that may be an off-site improvement that's necessary. They did the, SEH did the traffic study, and so I think we'll have some information to give us an idea of what that's gonna look like and whether it's warranted. You can't just put stop signs in to put them in, though. There needs to be a warrant, for the METCD. And so we'll work with them and see what those numbers look like for that intersection. And then David's comments, lot sizes being smaller, I think, that was determined back when, it was annexed and zoned. Because their lot sizes are on that smaller level for that R10 zone. So that would have to be, if we wanted to see more density there, have to be readdressed. And then road D aligning with Sunflower and road E aligning with Louisiana. I think I'll have the developer weigh in as to why they did offset those. Sometimes there are traffic calming reasons, but I'd like them to weigh in on that purpose. And then I just wrote a note about the developer participating in intersections offsite. We have had that happen recently, so I think we'll have some discussions and maybe discussions with the developer on what that could possibly look like. Clover 7 did have to participate in some offsite intersection funds for Clover and Bayfield Parkway. So something we will discuss with the developer. All roads should extend to the edge of the property. We've already talked with the developer about that. I think that's where the David had brought up that some of the plans are off. to them, so they didn't go back and update every plan, but they updated the site plan based on those comments. The final plan submittal should have all their other plans updated to match. But some of that is extending that road A and road B, and I think, they have or road C, sorry, they had some reasons why they didn't extend to the property line, but I think our planning commission's comments were we'd like to see those roads extend to the property line, so we don't have the same situation that we have right now with Louisiana not, connecting all the way to the property line. So I think those are it. Lots 25 and 26, I think I already addressed that. They didn't meet our standards in the code, so they had to realign those. And again, the site plan that I'm showing up here that I gave you copies of is newer than the original one they submitted because we've had some iterations back and forth since the preliminary plan submittal. Jason just brought up the point about making sure you don't put too much on HOAs, otherwise the cost for those homes does go up. And then Catherine, I didn't catch your last name, Franciel? And so I think Paul can answer her questions about the trail dimensions, because they are, I think, a little abandoned in some areas, and then also what's happening on that western ditch. So I'll let Paul answer.
Perfect.
I don't know if Katie caught anything else or Kirsten that I missed on those.
Well, I heard stop signs, and I think that I could have the Public Works Director address that, but typically that's during that final.
Yeah, like I had mentioned that we have a traffic study, so we can maybe look at that a little more detail to see if there's any warrants for additional stop signs on Louisiana.
The reason the intersections were offset was a traffic calming, trying to reduce the through movements and making really long corridor runs of Road D and Louisiana Drive. As far as Louisiana Drive and Hickory, I don't believe that stop signs would be warranted, but we could comment on that with Nicole in review of that traffic study. All the other intersections that we analyzed were four-way, three-way intersections, and I assume the volumes would be very similar, potentially slightly lower, and so the level of service of all those intersections was level service A. So pretty low traffic volumes as far as capacity is concerned, not necessarily any of the other concerns of kids and trails and that kind of thing. And then the 20-foot easement that's labeled there, I believe is an existing easement. The 30-foot trail will go up to the property line of the lots, and so there's a little bit of an overlap there on those two dimensions.
And just, Arthur, she had asked about the trail. I know that on the southern side you have a wider trail, and so maybe kind of.
Yeah, partly it's because the property is not an exact rectangle. The lines don't parallel, so we start to gain a little bit of real estate by having the same lot dimensions. As you can see, Road E runs east-west, and we've got about 35 feet here. But then by the time we get over here, it's significantly more. I think this is where it's 50 to 60 feet wide, just because this property line and this road aren't parallel.
Go ahead and step up to the microphone, please.
So there's the irrigation ditch that has to be maintained on the west. So how is that going to be?
That's going to be piped, and the trail will go over the top of the ditch.
I have a quick question for you, Paul.
Sorry, you gotta go in the microphone.
Brian Blanchard, 627 Louisiana Drive. So the perimeter trail is anywhere from 20, 30 feet to a maximum of 50 or 60 in spots. Who maintains that trail? Because your actual trail that you designate in your plan is 6 to 8 feet wide.
So the trail is 6 to 8 feet wide of crusher fines. The rest is landscaping, trees, shrubs, grasses, kind of an open space, and that would be maintained by the HOA.
Again, back to the HOA.
Glenn, did you want to?
Glenn Moselle from Coeur d'Alene. Regarding the stub roads to the south, if the city really wants them to go as close to the property line, then we will. But we think holding them back, say 20 feet, will allow the open space trail to be continuous without having to hop the street. So we feel it's a better trail experience if we hold them back a little bit. Thank you.
What would we see at Louisiana for that trail?
It would be an at-grade crossing. We would probably put some crosswalk stripes across there.
Okay.
And the same with Road D, and then
Yeah, sorry.
So there would be some at-grade crossings that would be delineated with crosswalk stripes, and the same on the south in the future when the roads do connect.
So I have a question for you. So at Louisiana and Hickory, which will be just off of that where that crosswalk is, when you were talking about stop signs, we would have at least a two-way stop there. Not, it doesn't necessarily need to be a 4, but that could also help in having continuous traffic, maybe paying more attention to that crosswalk there as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I just was like, there's not gonna be any stop signs there? That's gonna be fun.
Is there a stop sign there now?
No, because that road goes to nowhere, so
But I mean on Hickory.
There's a three-way.
there's a stop sign at the end, yeah. So that's what I just got confused when you said.
We wouldn't take anything away.
Okay.
We might not add anything.
And thanks to the town for putting the other stop sign back in that was missing.
All right. Is there any more public input, any clarification needed from the board? We can go ahead and get Tom back in here for a minute. Come on back in, Tom. No, you're gonna have to.
Just a long discussion.
You get to leave again in a minute, but. Okay, we're gonna move on to our 2022-07 Orchard PUD final plan.
So this project is at the final plan stage, so it only needs to come to the Board of Trustees. And after this stage, we still have some final documents and cleanup to do with the applicants before they can actually start developing the property. But this would be the final stage that they'd be, actually, I take that back. I had a little oversight on my end, and because this is not annexed, so it didn't get zone PUD, as part of this process of them going through the PUD process, at the end of it, they need to be rezoned to PUD, which requires an ordinance, and I did not prepare an ordinance for you tonight. So on May 3rd, I will have an ordinance prepared for you to act on if you do approve the project tonight. And so I did provide you a new recommended motion. The red highlighted areas is the new language that I added about directing staff to prepare an ordinance for the rezone. that was approved. So we'll be back in front of you one more time. In the future, and get staff's oversight on that one. So this property is an acre property. This property was not recently annexed, it's been in the town limits for a while now. Located just north of the Clover Meadows subdivision, phase 5, and just south of our industrial area in the community. And it was previously zoned multifamily, and so they have gone through the process of plan development to rezone into plan development, which again is a negotiated zone, and they did that for a couple of reasons. The first mainly is they, because it's a small lot, they didn't want to build a city standard street, which is a 60-foot right-of-way, and so they're building a private road that will be maintained by their HOA. And because of that, it needed to be a planning and development and not straight zoning. They also have a mix of different housing types, a little different setbacks than what the multifamily would have allowed in order to get the density that they want to get. single-family product in that development. So this went through the sketch plan process in October, preliminary plan process in March, and now it's in front of you for the final plan process. So final plan plat, because they are gonna be subdividing, they also have a plat as part of this one, so that's different than what we've seen with Marlin, keeping it one property. And again, the geotech is probably the one that's holding this one up a little bit. We haven't received that yet, but I think they're closer than the other projects to getting their geotech reports. So we're working with them on final plans. We've had our engineers back and forth on some of their civil plans that we will continue to finalize before we get any plans stamped and ready for construction. We're also working with them, and you've seen in your attachment, there is a PUD agreement, and also the subdivision improvement agreement, which we are continuing to work on and massage some of that language before we get those finalized and recorded as well. So this project is for 14 units. There'll be 9 single-family lots and 5 townhome units. Those townhomes will actually be back for what we call an as-built plat process. Because townhomes, you have to actually have some level of foundation and interior wall space so you can survey them before they can get platted. So we call that an as-built process, and so that will have to come back for an approval at a later date. And then they're proposing units between 1,100 to 1,500 square feet. Again, private road. The homeowners association will be responsible for road maintenance. Their drainage and detention areas. They're going to have 4 guest spaces and their common areas. They are also proposing to do a sewer main down their private road, so they do have to grant the town an easement so that we can go and maintain that sewer main. But all their water connections can come off of their exterior orchard and Clover, I believe. And so they'll have just service lines that'll be private coming off of those. But we will need to get in there for any maintenance for the sewer main, so that we will have an easement over that private road. This just kind of gives you a preliminary layout of what they're proposing to do. And again, this is the private road I was talking about, where we're going to have sewer main on that road that the city will.
Where are you doing the mouse thing again? Because we can't see.
So that you can see the road that comes off of Clover and Orchard. So in that road, we're going to have a town-owned sewer main that we'll have an easement for. Sorry.
That's okay.
And then this is just showing their plat, which I did give you a copy of larger so you can see that. And so this one, again, because I didn't get the ordinance created yet, I did change the amendment to the action. I just want to make sure on, and then the geotech is something we're still waiting for, so we won't be issuing any building permits or any infrastructure approvals until we have that geotech. But once they get final approval and once we have final grading and drainage and utility plan approvals, they can go ahead and start doing some excavation without doing any construction. But hopefully we'll have that geotech before all of that happens. I think they're actually closer than any others. And that's really all I have. So if there's any questions of staff, I can try and answer those right now. And I know the applicants are present and they do have a presentation as well.
Dwight?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and welcome the applicant up to the podium.
Let me get to that.
It's Andrew Klotz at 58 Tanglewood Drive. Actually, I think I'm just going to spare you guys the presentation, but because I think you've seen it 4 times or 5 times. Maybe the only thing you'd be interested in is we do on like the 3rd or 4th slide, we did get some architectural elevations of the. That's it right there, so you can kind of see what the units are going to look like. And so yeah, we're just hoping to get started. We've had several people in the community interested in these houses because they're good small houses to get into for folks, and will be new. So I think that's all we really have we've been working behind the scenes with Nicole to try to get all the questions answered and get everything tightened up so that we can start building at some point. So that's all I have.
All right, at this time, I would welcome public comment. If anybody would like to ask a question or make a comment. Seeing none, does the board need any further clarification or have any questions?
I have one. I know we had talked about the sidewalks, and is that just not on the map that you gave us, but there will be sidewalks included? I think I read that in the packet, but I just wanted to make sure I understood.
Yeah, the plat doesn't normally show sidewalks,
Okay.
so that's the legal plat, but yes, they are providing, sidewalks to meet town standards.
Okay.
And that is their engineering plans.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, I will go ahead and close the public hearings and open up our regular meeting. Do we have any public input on items 5A through E on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move on to 5A, Planning Commission recommendations regarding commissioner appointments.
Start with this one. So at our planning commission last week, we've been searching for a planning commission member. We've had one vacant position, and we had 2 community members apply, which is a big deal, to get volunteers and having 2 interested in that position. And so there was some discussion with the planning commission, and I think Trustee All kind of had brought up something at last Board of Trustee meeting about, do we want to have 2 trustees on the planning commission, or do we want to open it up and have 6 community members and 1 trustee? And so I think there was some discussion and interest from the planning commission, because we have 2 interested applicants, to look at if it's possible to change the land use code, as well as the ordinance, I believe, to allow for, of those 7 members, 6 to be community members and 1 being the mayor. And there's also discussion about whether a second trustee could be the ex officio that would replace the mayor if the mayor was absent for some reason. And so I think since those discussions, I know Katie and Michael have had discussions, and I'm not sure if I know all the specifics of those, so I might let them weigh in a little bit on what they found in terms of state statutes when we started looking into this.
So I will let Town Attorney Goldman address that.
So state statute has specific requirements as to what a planning commission in a municipality shall consist of, unless otherwise provided by an ordinance. So should you want to change the composition, strictly up to you. And you adopted an ordinance approximately a year ago, had the composition set at 2 trustees and 5 members of the public. Should you want to change that, you're more than welcome to, by ordinance. So it is what it is presently, okay? And so you're stuck with that until you decide to change it.
Yeah, and I hadn't heard any of that discussion until, Trustee Ah brought that up, and I thought it was a pretty valid, concern, although it seems to be a commission that is always looking for members. But we have 2 very strong candidates that would like to join Planning Commission, and I did not want to see turning a community member away from that board. So that was just the nature of the discussion, and I'm in favor of moving towards, here, we're going to get, the other trustee will also get to see all of this information again at the next town board meeting, so it's kind of a duplicate. And I'm there, so if anybody has questions, you can certainly ask me before the meeting. So any thoughts or?
I'm
all for it.
And I did get a response from Trustee Luke regarding, and he says he did read about the upcoming Planning Commission discussion. He is more or less neutral on the subject at the moment. I think it would be just as beneficial to have a community member serve as opposed to board members. And I guess he just needed some time to think about it. So anyway, he's hoping to be on the mend for May. So just so you have his opinion on that.
I like the idea of having another community member be part of it and less, us on the board being a part of it, just because it gives more of a say to our community. So I like it for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
I agree, particularly in light of the two candidates that stepped forward.
So in the event, so we'll have an alternate, but the alternate can only sit in for me if I'm not there? Let's say.
It'd be like a quorum.
Yeah, let's say if we're
member.
not going to have a quorum, can we call that alternate in for that meeting? How does that work?
The problem with alternates, again, we can look at that, but alternates, when you have a very structured sort of environment, tends to take away from continuity.
Okay.
There's a reason why there's one person that's generally appointed and must come to all the meetings, and they generally have a working history and understanding. But we can look at that and see whether or not an alternate is something that would comport with statute and other similar town ordinances.
Okay. So are you looking for direction, or do we?
Yes, I'm looking for direction.
Okay. I think, so we're not appointing anyone tonight, we're not, okay.
So what your direction and what I'm assuming is you would like to see an ordinance drafted that would detail ex officio, the mayor as ex officio, 6 community members, and an alternate, maybe an ex officio, to fill in for the mayor if the mayor is absent. And of course, that portion we'll have to have some legal review regarding that portion of it.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Great.
And great candidates. I'm very happy.
We have a Mustang annexation agreement amendment, so Tom, you're gonna have to step outside again.
You don't think you can do B and D at the same time, do you? Or one after the other?
No. We approve the agenda.
It was the mayor's turn last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did a lot of this.
Did a lot of leaving the room last year.
We just want to make sure you get your exercise.
Yes.
So, this is, I kind of mentioned this briefly during the Mustang Crossing preliminary plan approval, that we have not finalized their annexation. They've since looked at the annexation agreement that was included with their annexation packet that was approved by the Board of Trustees back in January of 18, and would like to make some adjustments to their annexation agreement before it gets recorded. And so they provided a red line version. One of the things I wanted to point out, though, there were 2 items in the red line version that town staff did not agree with, and so they have agreed to remove those. And number 1 is they asked to add some additional language to sidewalks where, let me go to that section real quick, where they were requesting, so they were, at the very end of section 10, they had added a sentence that developers shall not be required to make connections to existing sidewalks that are not immediately adjacent to the property. And Louisiana Drive sidewalks are not immediately adjacent because there's a gap there. And so I felt that them adding that language would impede our ability to get them to do the offsite improvement of connecting to Louisiana Drive sidewalks. So I've asked them to eliminate that red line. And then number 14, the public amenity, it was just written a little oddly, and so they rewrote it, and that's under number 2 of my staff report.
Okay.
It was rewritten, and staff is okay with the new language. Otherwise, most of it is just cleanup, and so we don't have any concerns with the rest of the document. And so if the board has questions, I can try to answer those, and the applicant can as well. But otherwise, with those 2 additions, staff's recommending to approve the annexation agreement amendment with those proposed 2 changes that staff has listed in the staff report.
Any questions or comments from the board?
I have worked with Ms. Killian on these amendments and these changes, and I agree with the position that you just stated.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Mustang Crossing Annexation Agreement Amendment with the 2 proposed changes as stated in the staff report.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further comment? Roll call.
Trustee Dallison?
Yes.
Trustee Harts?
Yes.
Trustee Moreland?
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro?
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington?
Yes.
All in favor?
All right, Tom. You can come back up now
For a minute.
for another minute. All right, moving on to, we have our Marlin Village PUD preliminary plan. Does the board have any follow-up questions or comments? I would entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Marlin Village PUD preliminary plan with the following findings and conditions. The findings A, B, and C, conditions A through H.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further comment? Roll call.
Trustee Aw?
Yay.
Trustee Dallison?
Yes.
Trustee Harts?
Yes.
Trustee Moreland?
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro?
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington?
Yes.
All in favor?
Sorry, Tom.
One more minute.
Mustang Crossing preliminary plan and staff update. Use by review. Any questions, comments, discussion from the board?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Mustang Crossing preliminary plan with the findings and conditions, findings A through C, conditions A through G.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Dallison?
Yes.
Trustee Harts?
Yes.
Trustee Moreland?
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro?
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington?
Yes.
All in favor?
Okay, you can hang out now. All right, moving on to our Orchard PUD final plan.
I just wanted to remind you, there's,
All right. Does the board have any further discussion, comments?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Orchard PUD plan, final plan / plat, and direct staff to draft an ordinance for the rezoning of the property to planned unit development for the May 3rd, 2022 meeting with the following findings and conditions. Findings A, conditions A through E.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Aw?
Hey, yay.
Trustee Dallison?
Yes.
Trustee Harts?
Yes.
Trustee Moreland?
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro?
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington?
Yes.
All in favor?
All right, moving on to our action agenda. Do we have any general public input pertaining to items 6A through E on the agenda? If not, we'll move on to 6150 County Road 516 water and sewer installation estimate.
so this, start over. Lana and Aaron Rodolphe came to the board on March 1st. They submitted an email to staff requesting that because they are in the town limits, wanting to see if they can get access to town water and sewer. They said that they're having issues with their well and their cistern. And so, staff brought it to the board and, we did a little bit of research before we brought it to the board and determined that right now, water and sewer is within Bayfield Parkway, which is approximately 1,700 feet from the property in question. And so in order to provide water and sewer, it would require extension of the town's water and sewer infrastructure. So at that time, the board did ask staff to do a couple of things. They asked us to reach out to other property owners along County Road 516 to see if others are having issues and would like to tie into town water and sewer, as well as have our town engineers do some preliminary cost estimates for what it would cost to get water and sewer down County Road 516. So since that time, staff did send out letters to property owners along County Road 516 to just a little bit past the Rodolphe property. And so far, we've only heard back from 2 property owners. One is really close to Bayfield Parkway, just 1 lot in, and I believe has sewer right now with the lift station and may be interested in tying into water, but not 100% yet. And then the other one is located across from the Rodolphes, and she was not interested in tying into water and sewer. And so that is all we've heard back from at this point in time. And I did invite everyone when I sent the letter to attend the meeting, so I don't know if anybody else here. Doesn't look like it. Oh, yeah, possibly on the screen. I don't know if anybody else here is in that neighborhood that wants to listen to the conversation or weigh in on their preferences. And then I'm gonna go ahead and Jeremy is the one who kind of oversaw the cost estimate at SGM, so I don't know if Jeremy wants to put him on the spot, so I don't think we talked about this, but. he
Yeah,
wants
I
to
don't have
add
that cost
anything.
estimate in front of me right now.
It's in your packet. I can pull it up.
The cost estimate that we got from SGM, I believe is, I don't think that the improvements would go over that engineer cost estimate, if you put it that way. So we have seen some rather steep increases in materials, labor, as well as oil for asphalt and pavement and some of those things. So you can look at that engineer's estimate and see where it is. One thing we did find out with the annexation agreements is that previously, 400 feet for the sewer, CRG,
Yeah,
400 feet for the sewer, CRG would continue from there, and 100 feet for the water would continue those improvements. So that does cut a little bit of the mileage off that you're looking at to extend those utilities. I just wanted to make you aware of that, and those were in the annexation agreements that we did find doing some more research.
Yeah, as part of the annexation agreement, Jeremy is referring to, the properties were annexed into the town with the knowledge that they were not gonna tie into town utilities. And then like Jeremy said, once utilities got to within that 100 and 400 range, then they were required to tie in and, on the developer's, expense and extend it to the, furthest edge of their properties.
So basically for 1 and possibly 2 people, $1.6 to $2 million.
Yeah, it's
Significant.
Yeah.
That's too
Like
expensive
I-
for that.
tho-
I mean, I'd love to do it, but that's just, whew.
And like I said, those estimates, if you did put that out to bid, you might get some favorable pricing, like we did potentially for the water main. So those do have a contingency factor in them when we're looking at those engineer estimates, but it was pretty expensive.
I mean, even if it was half that, that's still.
Yeah, where do we come up with that
Ooh,
kind of
yeah,
money? I mean,
exactly.
that's
I
half
mean,
of our east
you know, if
intersection.
you could go back to him and say, gosh, we'd really love to, but just, it's so too expensive. I think the community would think that was a poor use of our funds at this time.
I mean, I appreciate everybody's work looking into that. I think it was, that was something I really wanted to just look into at least. But I agree. I think it's just the cost is just way too much.
Yeah, I feel like we'd have to have
Everybody on board. And
even then, it might be
be-
years
yeah,
out,
years
not,
out, years
not
out.
right now. I mean, we'd have to figure out how to budget that, something like that in.
Yeah.
See if we can get grants or something for it, but.
yeah, it's unfortunate, but it just, I mean, it is just what it is. Michael, did you have a?
I'm I'm just a bit confused because I'm looking at the packet and I'm looking at an engineer's opinion of probable cost for a client named the town of Macon. I'm wondering, is this somehow,
Yeah, I saw that too. That was,
is this something that we're comparing?
it's an error,
It was
yeah.
an error, yeah.
Because it's got the right address. It's County Road 516, but,
Yeah.
Okay,
yep.
so I got nothing.
Yeah, we did
Darn.
refer to the engineer for some corrections.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. I know you guys are here. I know you,
Yeah.
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 Sure.
Hello, Lana Rudolphi, 6150 County Road 516. Just wondering, would it be possible to get an annex? We don't pay city taxes when there's no benefit for us being in city limits then?
Don't know the answer.
Yeah.
De-annexation?
I've never gone through that process.
Yeah, well, I went through that process, and I would just say it is a process.
Yeah, I
It's the.
Would it cost them?
Well, the agreements had stated that they would be extending water and sewer, so those are things that, it's as complicated or more complicated than annexing, but that's certainly up to the applicant to reach out to Ms. Killian and, determine what that is.
Yeah, I just don't see the benefit then of being in city limits, paying city taxes if we're not getting any water, sewer.
Mhm.
We just barely got trash service, like last week.
I'd say, I've done a lot of research since Lana approached me about this, trying to understand why this one property was brought in. It was tied to a bigger CRG property that I think they wanted to develop, and then they subdivided it off of that. But usually, and I was not here at the time, neither was Katie, but usually you do not want to annex a property that you're not able to serve.
Right.
And so it's unfortunate that at that time this was brought into the town, knowingly not able to serve it. And then I know the Rudolphis bought it after it was annexed. So, and I don't really understand the whole story. I can't figure that out. But it's not something that we should be in the practice of doing, is bringing in properties that we can't serve at that time.
I would agree with
Definitely.
that. And that makes me more so feeling like if they brought it to you to de-annex, that I would say yes.
Yeah, so I'd have to just review state statutes. I've never done a de-annexation, so it's something new, but definitely can look into it and see what the steps would be to go through that process and at least provide that so you can at least consider it.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering too, talking about the CRG land east of us, I believe it's like 40 acres, that is in city limits as well. And I've heard some rumors about them wanting to subdivide and build down there. So, like, if they're already in city limits and they're planning on doing that, then
It gets,
like,
it gets everything closer to you.
Exactly.
yeah.
So
That
that's,
would be something you need to
And that would
consider.
be something that we would be able to pass on a cost to a developer.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, if they do ever develop that, they would be required to do the extensions of water and sewer, and then at that time, you'd be a lot closer to that, but. At
Who
this
knows when
point,
that'll happen.
I haven't talked to them about it. I know that they're looking at maybe a single family house right now down there, but not a subdivision at this time, that I know of. I don't know if any of the other staff know anything I don't know.
Just a house. That's what we've been working on.
Would that house then have to be tied in as well because it's in city limits?
yeah, but it's a lot closer.
Yeah. So if they,
It's-
because they,
It would be close to.
Well,
the
maybe
river,
not.
Close to the town's wastewater treatment plant, so I don't.
Depends on how he runs the
Maybe
lines up through
I
there.
thought Jeremy showed us, they're pretty close.
But they may be tying in from that end, which would be still a little ways away from their property. Again, I haven't seen any specifics on any of that yet.
I really wish it wasn't so expensive
I know.
for you.
Wish it wasn't
me
either.
too. Thank you. I appreciate your
Sorry.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to ordinance 473, park impact fees.
Well, we got two ordinance numbers for 73, so we've modified the ordinance just slightly for the correct ordinance number, the next ordinance number.
So we just need a motion to approve the
That's correct.
ordinance 474, correcting the ordinance number. If anybody would.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 474, correcting the ordinance number regarding the ordinance ratifying park development requirements and fees.
I'll second that.
All right. Roll call, please.
Trustee Ah.
Yay.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, ordinance 475, infrastructure design standards.
So I would just want to clarify that in the packet, it says infrastructure and design standards. That's the incorrect term. It's infrastructure design standards without the and in the middle. So I've removed all the ands in both ordinance 475 and 476 to properly label what the ordinance that, or the infrastructure design standards that we're changing. The other modifications, there was a modification that was attached to in 476, but right now we're addressing 475.
Any questions, comments? Just a little cleanup here.
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 475, infrastructure design standards, section 3.2.7.c revision that removes the and between infrastructure and the word design.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Trustee Ah.
Yay.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, ordinance 476, construction specification standard detail.
And this is the same thing. There's an and between infrastructure and design, and that is not, that's incorrect. So your motion should also remove that. But in this motion, it's just amending the construction specifications. But I did remove all the ands from 476. The correct ands, anyway.
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 476, amending construction specification standard detail W-05.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Ah.
Yay.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, resolution 519, the liaison program updates.
So this is based on the last meeting that we had with the trustees and the interest. And I understand that Mayor Tarkington reached out to Trustee Aw, and maybe there isn't an interest at this time, but that can certainly change. It's kind of more of a formal process to determine your interest. So if we have a financial discussion, we'll probably reach out to Trustee Moreland. Trustee Luke would like to be kind of more involved in water and wastewater. This is certainly your call if you decide to adopt this.
Tom, did you have any interest or thoughts on? You don't have to, but if there is something that piques your interest around town.
I'm not sure at this point.
Okay, you can just let us know. TBD.
So do we need to approve this?
Yeah, we can revisit this and,
Yeah.
but we could approve this updated.
Okay.
Okay.
Very honestly, it's clarity to say that our Parks and Rec director should be reaching out to Trustee Dallison if there's issues that, and our Public Works director should reach out to Trustee Luke when there's issues that are correlating. I believe that Trustee Cesaro is working on the emergency plan for the town of Bayfield. So I think those are some things that the assignments are certainly voluntary, but sometimes it's helpful that if you have an interest that we involve you.
Okay.
Need approval?
Yes.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make an approval, or I'd like to make a recommendation
Motion.
to approve Resolution 519 Liaison Program Updated Interests.
I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion?
So I asked the question at the last meeting about the personnel. Did the attorney look into that?
So the personnel manual that you may recall no longer exists. It was replaced with a new one. And so I don't believe that there would be a conflict of interest. I would say that the issue, when it raises at the time, if the personnel liaison, if there is a concern of conflict of interest, I definitely would go to the town attorney.
Yeah, on an ad hoc basis. But yes, there's just no, the personnel manual does not address those conflicts.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
Oh, I second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Trustee Aw.
Yay.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, board reports. Anybody have any updates?
I've done a lot of RHA. I attended a meeting where we talked about hiring a consulting company. That consulting company has since dropped out. So we're discussing who we're going to go with next. And we also hired, what is the term for Patrick Vaughn? He's
a member at large.
Member at large, yeah. And he is just, wow, great candidate for us. We had really great candidates in general, and hopefully that will continue with an advisory board as well. But Patrick Vaughn, he started the Growth Fund and he has retired since. He has time to put into the RHA, so that'll be huge for us. And we're talking about possibly doing a consulting / interim local representation on that board so that we can really start moving forward with actually getting something done. So yeah, lots of meetings there.
All right, don't forget about Arbor Day at the elementary school. We have April 27th. It's the employee barbecue at Public Works. Everyone's invited to attend, and those guys throw down hard. It's really nice.
And just for the new trustees, we do close town hall for about an hour and 15 minutes. And we do post that so that people know that we're closed.
And then we'll see everybody May 3rd for our regular board meeting. If we have no more comment, questions, concerns, I will adjourn this meeting. It is 8:37. Well, I knew we'd be out before 9.
Thank you.
Nicole, do you want these or?